The flash burned through the fog like a scream of light. One photograph, one lie, one truth clawing back from the dark. I thought I was prepared for anything the city could show me. I wasn't. The evidence file slipped from my fingers, and for a moment, time stopped. That face on the glossy paper, it wasn't a stranger's. It was mine. But how? Every muscle in my body froze as my pulse thundered in my ears. The hum of the ceiling fan turned into a low growl. The photo stared back, silent and accusing. My reflection smiling where I swore I never stood. Could memory deceive so completely? Could guilt survive even when buried alive? The rain outside felt louder now, like applause from ghosts. Would you keep digging if the trail led straight to yourself? Would you trust the mirror, or smash it before it spoke? I looked again, and the truth smiled wider. Morning never came easy after that night. I sat in my apartment surrounded by files that refused to lie. Every murder scene connected to me somehow. Old addresses, familiar street corners, echoes of a life I swore I'd left behind. Maybe this case was never unsolved. Maybe it was just unwitnessed. The city outside breathed smoke and guilt. Every sound, the rain, the siren, the ticking clock, felt like a countdown. I poured another drink, watched my reflection ripple in the glass, and asked the one question I couldn't write in a report. What if I'd done something I'd forgotten? The call to internal affairs came at dawn. My voice cracked, half truth, half plea. There's been a mistake, I said, though it felt like a confession. They told me to stay put, but stillness felt like a cell. I stared at the photograph again, the smile frozen mid-lie, and felt something shift deep inside me. The city outside yawned awake, indifferent. Somewhere, a siren wailed. I'd spent my life chasing truth, but this time it had found me first. I traced the photo edges with my thumb. The paper was old, too old, maybe planted. Maybe truth rewritten. I drove to the archives chasing ghosts through dust. Every file I opened whispered names I once knew. Same streets, same times. Too neat, too cruel. My stomach turned. Someone had rewritten history and I was their pen. The last box in the row was heavier than the rest. Inside, more photographs. Different crimes. Same smile. I sank to the floor as a truth colder than death took shape. Someone wanted me to see this. Someone wanted me to remember. In the quiet, the hum of the overhead bulb turned into a whisper. You left something behind. The whisper didn't stop when I left the archives. It followed me through empty streets, hiding between raindrops and memories. The city looked washed clean, but the guilt clung to every brick. I drove without aim, headlights slicing through fog like a knife searching for flesh. Every stoplight reflected that same photo in my mind. Me, smiling, confident, guilty. Maybe the truth wasn't buried in evidence. Maybe it was in me, carved into the cracks of what I used to be. I wasn't sure if I was chasing a killer or remembering one. I stopped at the diner on 5th, the kind of place that forgets faces. The waitress poured coffee without asking. The heat bit my fingers, grounding me. I scanned the headlines on the counter. Killer still unidentified. Below it, my own eyes stared back from a blurry CCTV still. My pulse froze. I'd been here before. Maybe not tonight, but once. A flash of laughter, a broken mirror, a scream. My hand trembled. The waitress asked if I was okay. I lied. Again. I called Layla. No answer. My thumb hovered over her number again, but fear told me silence might be safer. Outside, thunder cracked. I felt eyes on me, the kind that see too much. I turned toward the glass and saw a reflection that wasn't mine move past the window. I rushed out, heart pounding, the storm swallowing sound. The street was empty. Only the echo of footsteps fading into the rain. Someone else knew the truth. Someone was ahead of me. By dawn, I was back at headquarters. The captain's door was closed, blinds drawn. No lights inside. I pushed it open anyway. Files covered the desk. My cases. Everyone stamped with red. My name at the top. My notes. My handwriting. Except the latest one. Someone had rewritten it. Line by line. Same pen. Different story. Suspect Eli Voss. The paper trembled as I picked it up. I'd lost control of my own narrative. A sound, faint, behind me. I turned slowly, and there she was. Lili, face pale, eyes red from sleeplessness. "You shouldn't have come back," she whispered. I asked her why, but she just shook her head, backing into the shadows. Her voice cracked. "You weren't supposed to find it." And then she was gone, her reflection swallowed by the glass. The file slipped from my hand, papers scattering like ghosts. Somewhere in the building, a phone began to ring. The phone's ring cut through the silence like a blade. I lifted the receiver, expecting a voice. None came, just breathing. My own name whispered back at me, slow, deliberate. The line went dead. The city outside was waking, but it felt like a bad dream trying to remember itself. I pressed my forehead to the glass. The rain had stopped, yet the streets shimmered as if the storm never left. I'd chased liars my whole life, but I never thought I'd become one. Maybe the case wasn't about who killed who. Maybe it was about who forgot what. I drove to the river, to the place from the first file. The old warehouse loomed across the water. Rotting wood, shattered windows, secrets nailed shut. Every case led here. Every clue circled back. I stepped onto the pier, boards groaning beneath me. The air smelled of rust and memory. The truth wasn't hiding, it was waiting. I remembered standing here once before, years ago, but with different eyes. Inside the warehouse, the silence was thick enough to feel. My flashlight carved tunnels through dust. I found outlines on the floor. Chalk faded, but not gone. Someone had been here recently. A camera flash scarred the dark, blinding me for an instant. Then, from the shadows, a voice. "You came back," I froze. That voice was mine. Not recorded. Alive. Close. The echo lingered long after the words stopped. I followed the sound toward a corridor lined with mirrors. Half broken, half clean. My reflection followed me, delayed, wrong. Each step closer. The delay grew. My reflection moved after me, not with. I raised my hand. It smiled before I did. Panic crawled up my throat. What if memory was the mirror, and someone else was standing behind it, shaping me into who they needed me to be? When I reached the last mirror, a new photo was taped to the glass. Fresh ink. My face again. This time standing where I was right now. A timestamp of the moment itself. My hand trembled as I pulled it free. Someone was watching, rewriting. The camera was still here, unseen, breathing with the building. I looked straight into the lens I couldn't find and whispered, "What do you want from me?" The silence answered, "Remember." The warehouse followed me home. Or maybe my mind carried it there. The walls of my apartment looked different. Angles wrong. Shadows longer than they should be. Every light switch clicked twice before working, as if deciding what reality to turn on. I opened the window. The city outside rippled like a reflection in disturbed water. Somewhere below. A camera shutter clicked. I didn't look down. I just whispered to the dark, "I see you." The next morning I found the envelope on my doorstep. No address, no words, just a strip of undeveloped film inside. I hadn't used film in years. Curiosity beat fear. In the dark room at headquarters, the images bled into shape. Empty streets, doorways, reflections. Then one frame showed me asleep at my desk, taken from inside my apartment. Whoever did this didn't just follow me. They knew the spaces between my thoughts. I searched every frame for a clue, something human. In the corner of one image, a mirror again, cracked, catching half a face that wasn't mine but wanted to be. I enlarged it, grain bursting into fog. The line between evidence and hallucination blurred until I couldn't tell which side of the lens I was on. Maybe the camera wasn't capturing me. Maybe it was showing what I refused to see. Lila called at dusk. Her voice was small, distant. "They're rewriting the case again," she said. "Your handwriting's on pages you never touched." I heard her breathing slow, as if someone else was listening on her end. "Ailey," she whispered, "check the negatives. You'll see what they changed." The line cut. I looked at the strip of film again, and under the dim light, new frames were appearing, images I hadn't developed. My hand shook. The story was still being written. That night, I pinned every photograph to the wall. The faces, the streets, the mirrors, all connecting into a pattern I hadn't seen before. A spiral. Every path led inward toward one missing piece in the center. My name. My face. My memory. The light flickered once, then steadied. In the glass of the window, a figure stood behind me, silent, waiting. I turned, heart in my throat, and the scene went black. Morning arrived like static on an untuned radio. I woke at my desk, the wall of photos rearranged, not by me. The spiral now pointed to one photograph I hadn't noticed before. A door marked Studio 9. My handwriting was on it, but I'd never been there. I could feel the truth pressing against the edges of my skull, asking to be let in. I packed the negatives, the badge, the single cigarette I never smoked. Outside, fog was waiting, loyal as ever. Studio 9 was real. A forgotten film lot at the city's edge, half collapsed and breathing dust. The gate hung open as if expecting me. Inside, reels of film lay scattered like molted skins. On the central screen, a projector flickered to life by itself. Frames rolled. Me, walking, investigating, thinking, except the camera moved before I did. Whoever filmed this had known every step ahead of me. I wasn't watching evidence. I was watching instruction. Footsteps echoed from behind the curtains. I expected Layla. Instead, I found rows of monitors stacked floor to ceiling, each looping different versions of me, smiling, shouting, searching. The timelines didn't match. In one, I solved the case. In another, I never existed. My stomach tightened. Every version looked a little closer to remembering. I whispered, "Which one's real?" The screens dimmed until only one remained. That version stared straight at me and mouthed, "You are the edit." The final reel waited on a table marked master copy. I threaded it into the projector with shaking hands. The first frame showed a younger me filming in this very room. A woman's voice narrated over the image. "Layla's. Every memory leaves a film behind," she said softly, "and someone has to develop it." My heart stopped for a beat. She hadn't betrayed me. She preserved me. But why? The next frame began to burn, curling into light. When the smoke cleared, the screen showed only a door. Same as the photo. Same handwriting. Studio 9. But now the camera turned and faced me from the other side, waiting. My pulse slowed. I realized the case would never close because I was the final frame left to expose. The projector hummed, brighter, until the world became light. And just before it faded, I heard Layla's voice one last time. "Now tell them what you saw." Light swallowed the room until it had no edges. I blinked and found myself standing inside the projected image. The air shimmered like celluloid heat. The floor clicked faintly beneath my shoes, as if each step was advancing film one frame forward. Everything looked too familiar. The same desk, the same badge, the same cigarette still burning. I'd stepped into my own evidence. Somewhere in the white haze, a voice whispered, "Edit carefully." Every wall played memories like overlapping reels. I touched one, and the image rippled. A crime scene becoming a childhood street, a fingerprint turning into a raindrop. I realized these weren't recordings. They were drafts. I could change them. My pulse slowed. I rewound a frame with my hand, and the smile in the photograph faded. The guilt loosened, just a little. Maybe the truth wasn't something to find. Maybe it was something to create. Lila appeared in one frame, younger, steady-eyed, holding a camera. "You see now," she said from within the film, her voice calm, almost kind. "You were never supposed to solve it. You were supposed to remember how to see." The screen between us rippled. I wanted to step through, to ask what I'd forgotten, but she lifted a hand and everything froze. Her outline shimmered like a negative about to fade. The film began to unspool around me, frames spinning in slow motion. Every picture flashed a version of my life. Choices I'd made, paths I hadn't. I saw myself quitting the force, staying, confessing, walking away. The film strip circled me like a halo of ghosts. I realized I could splice the story anywhere, end it however I wanted. For the first time, I felt something close to peace. I took the final frame in my hands. Blank, waiting. The projector hummed, a heartbeat in mechanical form. I whispered into the light, "Let's begin again." The brightness folded inward, drawing everything into sight. When my eyes opened, I was back in the evidence room. Dawn spilling through the blinds, the file closed on the desk. For a moment, I couldn't tell if I'd solved the case or become it. But maybe that was the point. The blinds hummed in the morning breeze, slicing the light into neat golden bars. For the first time, the silence didn't accuse me. It just was. I opened the file again. Empty pages. No photos, no names. Maybe that was mercy. Every case leaves something behind, but maybe forgetting is the only evidence worth keeping. Outside, the city yawned awake, unaware that somewhere a detective had solved himself. I walked through the precinct one last time. Every hallway felt smaller, every echo softer. Colleagues nodded without question, as if they already knew the case was over. The elevator doors opened, their reflections slicing me in half for a second. Detective and man, both stepping out together. The city stretched beyond the glass, endless and forgiving. Down on the street, the air smelled of rain and new beginnings. I lit that last cigarette I'd been saving. Not for comfort, but ceremony. In the store window opposite, a TV replayed the news. Unsolved case finally closed. No photo, no suspect. Just blank space where a face should be. Maybe erasure was justice after all. A faint click made me turn. The sound of a camera shutter somewhere behind me. I didn't look back this time. Let it record what it wanted. The story no longer belonged to me. I'd lived enough versions of it to know truth was just another kind of exposure. I dropped the cigarette, watched the smoke curl into a question mark, and kept walking. At the corner, I paused. No reason, just instinct. The city hummed, alive and ordinary. Somewhere, a film reel finished its spin with a soft click. Maybe someone else would find it, thread it through, and start again. I smiled, small but certain. The case wasn't about who I was, it was about what I chose to believe. And belief finally was enough.